My name is Daryl Weiss. I'm a downtown resident in this area. What I wanted to ask about is, and I've mentioned this to Alan a couple of times on our morning walks, is what's the immediate future for the marina and what we can put down there. Something comparable to what's up on Florida Avenue with the kids' playground equipment and the exercise equipment that's up there. Is that a possibility? Is there a pot of money somewhere that we can tap into?
Yeah.
We're all looking for that.
Yeah, something like a passive, like just in parks in general, or even on the marina, having like passive exercise equipment. Like you see, like ellipticals that are
right. Outside. So we have that already been delivered for Bay Memorial Park. We keep wanting to call it the Garden Club, but that Bay Memorial Park, and so that'll hopefully be installed in the next 60 days. Once we redo Joe Moody Harris Park, we're also going to plan to put the equipment there, but there is no plan for that on the marina.
Well, there's no plan for there's no formal
yeah, there's no formal plan.
There's no room in this building that has plans for the marina that you haven't seen.
Yeah,
we're still working on what happens.
There's lots of concepts. I would have no personal objection. I think the city's goal is to get the slips built as soon as possible in both basins. That's going to be about 220 slips-ish between both basins. Getting the promenade, kind of what you see around Hotel Indigo and Harrison's Restaurant. We want to extend that all the way around it. Those are, I think, those are kind of our two primary desires with the marina. But we're in the middle of negotiations with City Marina Partners, who responded to a request for proposal to be basically a P3 with the city on that. And so, I think it would be great to do some type of exercise equipment or on the promenade, maybe eventually when it's done.
Totally. It's always a thing of like, I don't think there's some sort of person that's anti-exercise equipment. But it's always like what will people use, whether it's a slide for kids or a bench or an elliptical. And so,
I just think it's a good venue to bring 100%. People downtown.
I walk it every morning. I see you. It's beautiful.
Yep.
And so and it's actually 1 mile, almost exactly the perimeter. Exactly.
If you start at Destination Panama City and all the way back to, I guess, kind of there at Laverne and Government Street.
I know it's asking too much, but it'd be nice if it was paved around the T.
That's what when I say the promenade, that's what we're wanting to do.
Yeah, and so what was the estimate yesterday?
It's about $2.5 million to extend the sidewalk, the railing, and then provide lighting, like more permanent lighting all around the perimeter. So again, I know that in talking with all the elected officials and senior city staff, that is our primary focus and desire is the wet slips and the docks built back, the installation of the promenade all the way around the exterior of the T-dock, and then obviously enhancing and enlarging the boat ramp because the commission is committed to keeping that there. And just as a side note, we actually, we went for a grant with the state to enlarge and enhance the boat ramp. We weren't successful, but we did sell a piece of property over near Snug Harbor in Millville because that extra parcel wasn't needed as we built out Snug Harbor. So we sold it, but it had to be used for the marina because it's it's an enterprise fund or protected fund for that. And so we used that to fully engineer the enlargement and enhancement of the downtown boat ramp and almost 50 boat trailer parking spots with better flow over there on the east side of the old Civic Center. And while we weren't successful with the state actually shared this last week with the design engineer and our Parks and Rec team that, hey, that was, such a good application. They believe it's a good candidate for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and so we have submitted that with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife to try to get a grant to do that, and we hope to hear back from them in February or March whether or not we were successful in that bid. Yeah. That's probably a $2 to $2.2 million project to rebuild because we're gonna make it larger. We're gonna have kind of like two up and down two ramps, very similar to what you see at Snug Harbor, as well as the appropriate docks and floating docks all the way around it so that they can be ADA accessible as well.
Who's responsible for the trash pickup on the marina and the dog feces stands? Who's responsible for that?
Our Parks and Rec, the city's responsible for that specifically through the Parks and Rec department.
Even the ones near the, like Harrison's, there's a dog stand there?
There is a chance that Harrison's might have put their own up on the other side, so I would have to check. But no, our guys go out 7 days a week and check all of the waterfront parks, like starting at Calhoun Park, looking at Asbel Park. In fact, they check Asbel Park twice a day, and then also make that drive around the St. Andrews, the downtown marina. Yeah. We don't quite do as much at St. Andrews because it's under construction right now, and we have an agreement with St. Andrews Marina Partners, and they're doing a lot of the maintenance right there. But there is a dumpster I know we pick up.
There used to be blue cannons out there, which I think helped. And Disney actually has a study where it says if you don't have a trash can every 12 feet, people just throw it on the ground. And I have a theory of people typically will walk further if they don't see any other trash, but if they already see one or two pieces, it's like, it's already happened. And they throw that. And you and I walk, I said the same thought, like, why is there trash out here? But you and I walk at like 6:30. At 7 is when the staff comes around.
They're 7 to 3.
And I noticed I started walking later, and so they come, especially Monday morning. So people have been fishing on the marina and hanging out there, and there's lure bags, there's line laid out, and beer cans and all kinds of stuff.
Please stay inside till 7 a.m., Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, exactly. When it's cleaned up.
Yeah.
But I had the same thoughts of like, this should be prettier, it should be kept up better.
But are y'all saying the blue cans aren't there anymore?
Not there anymore.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not aware of that. I will find out why.
Out in the T-Dock.
I'm not aware of why we got rid of that. That was a mistake.
Last comment, could you just give us an update on the Beach Drive walking path?
Yeah, go for it, John.
Oh, wow. Okay. No. So okay. For those that haven't been following, so the city got a state appropriation for about $8 million to build a sidewalk kind of connecting St. Andrews to Panama City, to downtown Panama City. Back in the day, there was a boardwalk because St. Andrews and Panama City were two different cities.
That's a big update.
Yeah.
Going back 100 years.
Yeah, going back 100 years.
Not back in our day.
Nobody's here. So maybe Nevin. Mr. Zimmer might remember that one. So, no. And so we got appropriation to do it, and that was all kind of approved and put in motion with the subrecipient grant and all that. And the problem is it's not really a grant. It's a state appropriation, but they're executing it financially like a grant because the state agency has to provide oversight over that. And so all that was kind of put in motion in early 2023 and in kind of like February and March. And then in May, former city leadership had an idea, which I think was a good one, as part of the project, not solely tied to the project, but as part of it, requesting that the state transfer certain parts of U.S. Highway Business 98 to the city. So that includes Beck Avenue, which I can tell you right now, the businesses and folks in St. Andrews have wanted probably for 20 plus years to have Beck Avenue transferred to the city so that the city can have more control over it. We can create a social district and all of that. All the way down that 10th Street, Chestnut, 9th Street, little part of Frankfurt, and then Beach Drive, back to 6th Street there at First Baptist. The request was made, hey, can you transfer that to the city? And we got verbal approval from FDOT. They even sent back a map and said, here's what we're proposing. We went to, that went all the way up to the federal highway folks. They signed off on it, and then it came back. And there was some, I'll just fast forward over it. There were some concerns within FDOT, and they ultimately decided not to transfer us the road. And they really only verbally communicated that to us, but they have indicated verbally that they don't plan to transfer the road. So rather than us simply building a sidewalk project in our own right-of-way, we now, it's going to continue to be the FDOT's maintenance right-of-way, and then a combination of our platted right-of-way along West Beach Drive on the south side. So now, because they're not going to transfer the road, we have to get a right-of-way construction permit from FDOT, and they've looked at the plans that we've designed, and they want us to modify them. But before I direct the design engineer to spend another penny to modify those plans, I want to hear from FDOT exactly what they're going to let us do, and we're still working through that. And there was a recent, there has been some recent changes within our district of Florida Department, and I'm sorry, I said FDOT, that's Florida Department of Transportation. The district secretary retired a couple of months ago, and there's a new district secretary, and we had a tentative meeting scheduled with him yesterday. But he had to last minute go down to Miami, so we're hoping in the next 2 weeks to sit down with him and kind of get us all on the same page.
He's
so
from
that
Bay County, supposedly.
Well, no. I'm talking about the district secretary.
Yeah.
But he's from Chipley, so he's suburbs of Panama.
But Jared Purdue is the guy
the head secretary of all of FDOT in Tallahassee is a Bay County son, and he has interests. I think there was some concerns raised by, say, like Chevron and some of the larger vehicles on the road, and that's another issue. I know that some of the residents on Beach Drive weren't supportive of the project and had concerns, but they've long since wanted us to maybe narrow the road down a little bit and slow it down and reduce some of the larger semi-traffic. But I think where it got confused is folks thought that those two were connected, the transfer of the road and the project, when really the project came, it was an afterthought to, hey, maybe in this process, let's transfer the road. And that's not going to happen, at least in the short term. I do personally still believe that for the long-term interest of the city, given what we want to accomplish in St. Andrews, I know there's strong, I wish Commissioner Street was still here, but I know there's still very strong support to kind of create more of the golf cart, type community, the social district in downtown St. Andrews, very similar to what we've done here. But when you have a state highway through the, through the middle of the area, you can't really just like, hey, we're just going to do what we want here. We have to get their permission, and there are restrictions as it relates to anything outside of special events. So that's the challenge. So hopefully to get the project kind of back on track, kind of determining it, but because they're not going to transfer the road, and not really let us narrow it, then that does modify the path a little bit. And so we'll look at that. I still personally believe that there's 26 plus feet across Beach Drive. Probably back in the day, there's pictures, there used to be parking on one side of it. I'm talking 100 years ago or 90 years ago, there was kind of parking along one side. And so when they came in and eliminated that, you have wide lanes. And the truth is, the lanes on Beach Drive are wider than they are on 98 and 231. And so even if we don't modify the lanes at all, the city's view and request to FDOT is we still at least lower the speed limit to 25 miles an hour. I pull out on the Beach Drive every day, and there's regularly people doing 45, 50 miles an hour down that road. I would like to see long-term, probably more like 10, 20 years, but I would love to see it have more of an iconic residential feel. Get rid of the big wooden telephone poles and the wires, and put in more like lamppost lights, and with a great walk. It can still be a connector road. People can still drive east to west on it, but really, but just slower. Yes, ma'am. And then and also enhance the walkability for people to enjoy that stretch. Oak trees and kind of almost, if you think about like driving through Eufaula. I'd love to see and that's still a major road right through Eufaula, but you still have this, iconic, beautiful road that has less of a U.S. highway feel and more of a larger connector road inside of a residential community. That's kind of what I'd love to see.
Yeah, change is emotional.
Yeah.
Emotions don't follow logic a lot of times. Government is slow and clumsy, but caring and nice people and all the things have been frustrating at times. As part of what we're hoping to do is, if we do get a reduced, if we're not going to shrink the lanes, our opportunity to do a wider path on the south side gets reduced, much smaller to a sidewalk. Or sidewalk-esque, but it leaves us an opportunity to go to the private landowners. The city does own some of the waterfront, but there's also private owners. And again, we're working with St. Joe Bay, St. Andrew Bay Estuary, University of Florida Agriculture, and we're going to be approaching those owners, saying, "Hey, I know this is your private property. Will you allow us to restore back the natural grasses? Will you allow us to plant natural trees back? Can we put a little 4x4 post with a rope that says private property? Can we make, standardize some of this stuff and beautify it, add signage, those sort of things? And because what we have now is people carrying people who have removed some grasses, now the sand's blowing in the road, and people planting sod under good intentions, but they don't realize what fertilizers do to our bay. And we just want to show them what it can be. And and this isn't the last attempt. Maybe one day someone else tries to do it again and reroute the semi truck somewhere else. Coastal.
Yeah. I'll just add, and we acknowledge that that there is a challenge into and out of downtown Panama City for vehicles. It's really more than even the fuel trucks. I mean, we have a lot of businesses downtown, and so I mean, even the city, we sometimes have large deliveries, and so every downtown in America has a designated commercial truck route into and out of downtown. It's not something that's unique to Panama City. Everybody has to do that. And there have been, we monitor the accidents along. Commissioner Street is actually listening, and he texts me. He goes, "Oh yes, they still want Beck Avenue for sure in the St. Andrews community to become a city road, so we have more control over it." But the number of accidents, we see as again wide lanes. No stop signs, people kind of zooming down that. And so we want to work long term, on identifying a much better truck route into and out of Panama City. So we've committed to Chevron, we've committed to the other businesses. Hey, listen, here's a map. Like, you draw it into here, and we will modify curb lines. We will modify the markings to give wider turn radiuses for them to again get into and out of Panama City. And I'll just add, there's also a huge environmental component as part of the beach drive, and we still want to do this. There's about 16 or 17 outfalls along that stretch of Beach Drive. We want to go in and put in the bay savers, and we had one here for a couple of months in City Hall, which would catch a lot of the trash and the oils and the debris and the runoff from the road. Right now, it just washes right into the bay. This would catch that, and I mentioned the stormwater vac truck. It would come through, once a month or twice a quarter and vacuum all that out, and that's the stuff that doesn't end up in the bay. And so we still want to work on that. We still feel like that should definitely be a part of this project. Because again, that with also adding in a net gain of 110 to 120 trees that are more native through there that don't require as much maintenance. That was another thing that we were committed to. So we still want to do those, even if we have to have a narrower sidewalk and stay within the state's right of way. That if that's the way it is, that's the way it is. But we still feel that the environmental and the landscaping component is critical to the overall health and long-term stability of that stretch.
Yeah, give people a vision. Even truck routes are important. If you can visualize Frankfurt and 15th Street, there's a Safe Glass new repair center. That curb there has been destroyed by semi trucks. Trying to come down Beach Drive, turning on from 98, headed on Frankfurt, headed south, and it just destroyed. And so they need a real truck route that's off the bay, that's easier for them to make their turns, because they have a business, and we're not throwing Chevron under the bus.
No, absolutely not.
What's interesting about that facility, I had no idea. The gaskets were found in Pascagoula. It's one of the 3 facilities in all Florida where gaskets truck to Dothan and Columbus, Georgia. So you can imagine all the Chevron gas and how they would be it's hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue for them and how important it is. And they need a safe way away from people, away from school zones and railroad tracks where they can get in and out of here.
It's important to our community, and we would never want to do anything to harm sustainable commerce into and out of our downtown corridor. And so we're definitely committed to that, and we'll see what happens, but we remain committed to it. And there is the desire is to eventually connect the 2 marinas for pedestrian connectivity. So we're still hoping to do that. So yes, sir.
Hey guys, good morning.